Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article is speaking about Draft Lakshadweep Development Authority Regulations of 2021. There are about two articles in the Hindu today. Let's take them together and discuss as one single issue. Before we understand what these draft regulations are, let's have a brief idea about the Union Territory of Lakshadweep. The Union Territory of Lakshadweep is the smallest union territory. It is an archipelago consisting of 36 islands with an area of 32 square kilometer. It is a union district, union territory and comprises of 12 atolls, 3 reefs, 5 submerged banks and 10 inhabited islands. From the preliminary examination point of view, do remember Kavaratti happens to be the principal town of Union Territory and the capital as well. When you look into this particular region, if you have to enter from the mainland India into the Lakshadweep, what you require is the permission. You cannot just enter this particular island. What you would require is the permission from the administrators and the governing body to enter from mainland India into the Lakshadweep Islands. These are some of the factual data that we have to remember. Now what we have to discuss is about the governing body. When you look into the union territories, there are two types of union territories in India. One which is headed by the administrator, the other is headed by the lieutenant governor. Which are the union territories which have the lieutenant governor as the head? What we have is the Andaman and Nicobar Island. Then what we have is Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir, followed by Puducherry and Ladakh. All these union territories are headed by the lieutenant governor. But when it comes to Chandigarh, when it comes to Dadra, Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu and Lakshadweep, they are headed by an administrator. So kindly remember, when it comes to these three union territories, what we have is a governing body which is headed by the administrator. Now let's try and understand what is this draft regulations all about. What are these draft regulations? They are nothing but the administrative reforms. These are the administrative reforms which the government is planning to come up with when it comes to the union territory of Lakshadweep. This can be categorized into three different modules. One is in reference to the land ownership rights. Next is the prevention of antisocial activities when it comes to Lakshadweep. And last is the draft panchayat notification unveiled under the same draft. First, let us understand what are the concerns with respect to the land ownership rights. When we speak about administrative reforms, these are being initiated. Why? So that they could bring about development in this particular region. So what is development is highly subjective. What one person wants, the other person may not want it. What the government wants, the people in that region may not want it. So when it comes to the development, the article here is speaking about taking away the land ownership of the people. The developmental activities may include building, engineering, mining, quarrying and other operations which the government is planning to take up in this particular region as a model of boosting the development. But people in this particular region are not happy about this developmental model. Why? One, what they feel is that there is a fragile ecosystem in this particular area. If there is increasing developmental activity, this will ultimately harm the fragile ecosystem. So what is happening here? It is the environment which will be at loss. The coral islands will be completely at loss as the biodiversity could come under threat and the environmental degradation can happen because of the developmental activity is the first concern. Another major concern is that if the government decides that there is a particular piece of land that is required for the developmental purpose, so it can snatch away the right of the owner of that particular land. So what it means is, according to the author, it gives sweeping, arbitrary, unchecked powers on the government and it will also snatch away the right of the landowner in this particular region. So basically, if there is any other person who's obstructing this particular process of the developmental plan, he can also be penalized with imprisonment as well. So what are the two major issues? One is that it will disturb the fragile ecosystem, is more developmental activities taking place in this region. The other happens to be the landowner may have to surrender his land to the government if it is required for the developmental purposes. If he obstruct it, he may be penalized and he may be put behind bars as well. This is the first major concern with respect to the land ownership right. The next reform that it wants to introduce is come up with a legislation for the prevention of antisocial activities. This is similar to the Gunda Act, which is present in multiple states in India. What does happen? Let's say if there is a particular person who is caught, this person can be detained by the police officers in the union territory without any public disclosure for a period of up to 1 year. So this basically means that that person who's arrested, his rights could also get violated. This is the next administrative reform, but here what is the antisocial activity is still not defined, so it can lead to whims and fancies of the administrative body is the second major concern. The third is in reference to the draft panchayat notification. What is the draft panchayat notification? According to this notification, if there is a person, if there is a member of this union territory who has more than two children, such a person would not be able to contest the panchayat elections. This means that people who have more than two children would not be able to take part in the democratic principles of contesting the elections. So the people are apprehensive about this draft notification as well. These are the major issues when it comes to the draft regulations which is in the public discourse with respect to the administrative reforms. Apart from this, what you actually see is the increasing cases of COVID-19. Earlier, before the administrator came into picture, before these draft regulations was pictured in, what you had is a standard protocols. What was the standard protocol? If there was a person who was to step into Lakshadweep, all that he had to do was to quarantine himself for a 14-day period, which also meant that there were limited number of cases of COVID-19. In fact, there were less number of cases as well. But the new administrator who has come into Lakshadweep opened up a new provision that all they required is a RT-PCR negative certificate, which meant that this 14-day period of quarantine was completely done away with, and as a result there are increasing cases of COVID in Lakshadweep, which is why the people in this particular region have criticized as well. All this have led to the criticisms in the present situation in the Union Territory of Lakshadweep, where the residents of Lakshadweep are campaigning against these administrative reforms that is taking place in the name of development. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about POXO Act. Children are beautiful souls touched by innocence. They carry charm and the blessings of God to remove sorrow in the environment, ever happy, undisturbed by the compulsions of the orderly world. But society has few leeches. These are the sexual predators. They break the trust and fidelity that a child poses in them, end up marring the life of a child by committing a sexual offense on a child. To bring these leeches under the law books and to protect the children, the government devised a new law in the year 2012, and that happens to be Protection of Children from the Sexual Offences Act of 2012. What is this legislation all about? This happens to be a comprehensive law. What law is it speaking about? It prevents children from the offences like sexual assault, sexual harassment, and ensuring that they remain free of any type of pornography is what is this Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act of 2012. Who is a child according to this particular legislation? Any individual who is between an age group of 0 up until 18 will be called as a child. So in case any sexual harassment or sexual assault is committed on an individual who is between this age group, such cases will be handled under the POCSO Act. So this particular legislation also has what is called as a special court, so that there is expedite disposal of a particular case. In case a particular crime has been committed against the child under the POCSO Act, what the court will do is to disperse this particular case as soon as possible. During this particular process of judicial process, everything in the interest of the child will be taken into picture. What do we mean by best interest of the child? Let's say at night the child should not be retained in the police station, which means that during the process of investigation, during the process when inquiries are being done, the child should not be detained in the police station. Child should not be repeatedly called to testify the evidences. There should be breaks given during the trial of a particular process, and ultimately the statement of the child will have to be recorded as spoken by the child. There cannot be too intriguing questions which will harm the psychology of the child. So ultimately, the principle of best interest of the child comes into picture with respect to the protection of children from the Sexual Offences Act. However, there has been one specific issue with respect to this legislation. What is that issue? That is in reference to the historical child sexual abuse. What is this historical sexual abuse? Let's say, for example, there is an adult. This adult might have gone through a sexual abuse, sexual harassment, not in the immediate timeline, but this might have occurred months ago, or it might have occurred years ago, in fact decade ago as well. So when a crime is committed on a woman, which is a sexual harassment or a rape, or which is violating the modesty of a woman, which is years ago, that is what is called as historical sexual abuse. And if the same is committed on a child who is less than 18 years of age, that is what is called as historical child sexual abuse. So this sexual abuse has taken place on a child which is months ago, years ago, or it can be decades ago. What is this article trying to speak about? This article currently says that if there is a child who's gone through this sexual abuse months or years or decades ago, the POCSO Act was not successful in bringing the perpetrators under the law book and putting them behind bars. Why are we discussing this? That is because when you go back to this legislation, it was created in the year 2012. What if there was one of the perpetrator of crime who had committed a sexual abuse on a child before 2012? What would happen to such child is what is this article all about. Why are we discussing this once again? That is because let's say there is one of the child who had faced the issue of sexual assault. Now that child may be a major as well. During that particular period, there might be a sexual abuse or a sexual assault committed on this particular child who is now a victim, a major, but during that particular period, it could have been a friend, it could have been a family member. So during that particular period, the child did not have the power, the child did not have the guts, the child did not know what was happening with that particular child. So the child might not have revealed this particular information. Now the child is a major, the major would have understood what is the trauma that that child went through, and as a result, when it wants to reveal at this particular juncture, the problem is the POCSO Act does not support, says the author. So basically, when you look at child abuses, it takes a lot of time for the child to understand whether it is a sexual abuse or not, but it also takes years of reflection as well for the major who was once a child to reflect on that and ultimately bring the perpetrator to the law books. This is where the author goes on to say that there are challenges when it comes to the execution of the laws. What are these challenges? First, when you look into the CRPC, what is the CRPC? This happens to be the procedural code when it comes to the criminal laws in India. There are two types of laws. One is a substantive law, the other is the procedure law. When it comes to the criminal laws, which is a substantive law, what we have is the IPC. This is a substantive law. But when it comes to the procedures to be followed, what we have is the Code of the Criminal Procedure. According to the provisions in the Code of the Criminal Procedure, it prohibits the judicial magistrate to taking cognizance after a specific period of time. What does this mean? In case there is a particular crime which is committed, which has a penalty of 6 months, which has has an imprisonment of 6 months, after a considerable period of time, the judges would not be able to take up this case. In case there is a particular crime whose imprisonment term is for a period of 1 year or anything less than that, after a considerable period of time, the judge may not be able to take up this particular case. So in the present situation, what is the major challenge is that if there is a particular crime that has been inflicted on the child in the past, the CRPC has a limitation that after a considerable period of time, the case cannot be taken in the court of law. That is the first challenge. The second important challenge is with respect to the evidences. Let's say there is a particular crime that is committed. When you have a crime that is committed, what you require is the evidence so that the prosecution can prove it in the court of law. But when it comes to the cases which has happened like 10 or 20 years down the lane, there is a major problem for the prosecution. That is, there might be minimal amount of evidences left. As a result, the second major challenge is in reference to the evidence. The first challenge is in reference to the law with respect to the CRPC. The second is in reference to the evidence. The third major challenge is in reference to the law once again. Let's go back to the year 2012. Until 2012, we did not have the POCSO Act. When there was a rape that was committed on a child, this particular case was booked under 376 of the IPC. But if it is a sexual assault or it is a grouping or a sexual harassment, rest of it fell under 354 of the Indian Penal Code. This section 354 of the Indian Penal Code basically dealt with modesty of the crime, which means that there is a criminal force that is enforced on a particular person, and as a result it is violating the modesty of a woman. But the problem is the law does not explain what is to outrage the modesty. The Supreme Court in number of cases has held that it is about feminine decency, and as a result, since there is ambiguity in law, what is the procedure that will be followed if this particular sexual assault has happened prior to 2012? It is only after 2012 what we have is the POCSO Act. But what if this particular act of sexual assault has taken before 2012? When you look into the CRPC section, as we initially discussed, there is a limitation that is present in CRPC. So for all those people who would have committed a sexual offense on a child before 2012, they would be booked under 354. But the limitation in CRPC says that if there is a particular crime which is committed and if it is not told to the court of law within 3 years of that particular crime, then that can also be barred by the CRPC, says the third major challenge. So what are the major concerns here? The major concerns are that a child who's gone through this traumatic experience, after it has collected the guts and the power to put out in the public forum the laws and the issues in CRPC, is not letting the child get justice, is what is the author trying to say. In order to overcome this particular issue, what we have to do is to amend the laws, protect the rights of the victim, says this article. So basically, it is asking the Indian government to rework on the POCSO Act or bring in legislation so that ultimately justice can be delivered to this particular child. So it is asking the government to import one of the concepts as we have in the United Kingdom. United Kingdom currently has detailed guidelines on prosecuting cases of child sexual abuse under the Sexual Offences Act of 2003 of United Kingdom to assist the police in such cases of sexual harassment. A similar idea should be imported into India, says the author. The Union Minister of Law and Justice, at the request of the Minister for Women and Child Development, clarified that no time shall apply for POCSO cases. But what if there is a crime that is committed before the POCSO came into picture? This is a grey area which the author is requesting the government to work once again. And finally, there is an advantage as well when it comes to CRPC. That is section 473 of the CRPC. It speaks about extension of period of limitation in certain cases. When you look into this particular section of the CRPC, it basically goes on to say whatever we have discussed might be the norm with respect to the limitation. But there are some grave instances, there might be some issues where there might be travesty of the justice, or there is new evidence as well, or there might be certain circumstances which have reoccurred in the present situation where justice has to be delivered to the victim. In such a case, limitation will not work. So necessarily for the victims of child abuse, this limitation should not be working out, and the courts in India will have to take the picture of 473. They have to address the grey area before the POCSO Act. They have to import the UK rules, says the author. So going forward, in the best interest of the child, in order to address the historical child abuse cases, what we have to bring is these reforms going forward, says the author. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about United States of America withdrawing from Afghanistan. The minute there is withdrawal of United States of America from Afghanistan, what could be the possible repercussions and implications in Afghanistan and to the countries in and around it is what is this article all about. When we look into this particular article, what you currently have is United States of America withdrawing from Afghanistan. Even without any power sharing deal between the warring parties, that is between the Afghan government, between the Taliban and regional powers, United States of America has decided that it will be withdrawing from Afghanistan. Before, they wanted to ensure that there is consensus between the government as well as the Taliban and the regional powers, but now United States of America has confirmed that it will be withdrawing its forces in the month of September, whether they accept to the conditions, whether there is consensus that is built or not. So what could be the possible repercussions? When you look into what's happening in Afghanistan right now, there is increase of Taliban violence. Why? Because Taliban wants to reimpose its force in Afghanistan. So what is happening? There's killing of women, children are not allowed to educate themselves, journalists are getting killed, and in case they have previously condemned the acts of Taliban, those are the journalists who are getting killed as well. Children are not able to educate themselves, and the ceasefire which has been approved and agreed by the government and Taliban is also not being respected. As a result, what you actually witness is increasing cases of violence. What can we infer from this particular act? Basically, we can go on to say even if the consensus building between the government and Taliban does not work, what it means is Taliban has the power to make use of force to ultimately get what it wants to. So basically what Taliban is trying to say to the government and to the regional forces is whether you approve the consensus that we want it to be or not, we are going to reimpose our force, military dictatorialship, so that we will claim what we want in Afghanistan is what is the viewpoint of Taliban, which is where it springs problems to multiple people, multiple regional powerhouses, says this article. Let's try and understand one by one. What are the issues for the Afghan government? When it comes to the Afghan government right now, what United States of America wants is the Afghan government to share power with the Taliban. But the government is not wanting to share power with Taliban, but instead it is asking for the elections. That is the first major issue. As of now, United States of America wants Afghan government to share power with Taliban, but the Afghan government wants elections so that people decide what is the fortune of Taliban. This is where there is a conflict about power sharing. Then there are issues within the government itself. What are those issues? One, the dominant community in Afghanistan happens to be Pashtuns. Ideally, the government headed by the president should bring the Pashtuns under its control, should convince the Pashtuns that it is the government which should be able to do justice for the people in Afghanistan. But the major problem is the Pashtuns are not taken into confidence and the Pashtuns are not with the Afghan government. Added to this, there is rivalry within the government as well. Why? Because there are varying leaders, there are number of parties who also want to lay a claim to the power in Afghan government, which is where the president also has issues with the people within the government as well. And added to this, when you look into the Taliban, Taliban has been able to have some solid control. It is able to negotiate with multiple people, and ultimately there is more power that Taliban currently has in Afghanistan are some of the major issues when it comes to Afghanistan and its polity. Now let's look into Pakistan's emergence when it comes to the geopolitics in this region. When you look into the role of Pakistan, Pakistan has always supported United States of America. It has provided operational and other supports to United States of America to bring an end to terrorist organizations like Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. So when United States of America wanted to go back and pull all its forces away, Pakistan had immediately seen victory when it comes to operations in this particular region. But it is not going to be so easy after the withdrawal of United States of America for Pakistan. Why? That is because there are two issues for Pakistan. One is in reference to the Afghanistan government, the other is in reference to the Taliban. What is the issue with respect to the Afghanistan government? The Afghan government does not trust the Pakistan government. Why? Because it is the creator of Taliban. Just because Pakistan wanted to cook its own ambitions in this particular region, it is they who also gave more power to the Taliban. It is they who put Afghan government and Taliban against each other. So the Pakistan government and Afghanistan government do not have good relationship. So in spite of Pakistan government wanting to have good relationship with Afghanistan, Afghanistan government does not trust Pakistan. So in case there is power sharing, the Afghan government will not trust the Pakistan government. So Pakistan has the first major issue in this particular road. The second major issue is also with Taliban. In the past, when you look into disagreements between Pakistan and Taliban, there have been issues where Pakistan has not supplied resources or financial incentives to Taliban. That is where Taliban has actually gone ahead and fought the Pakistan and Pakistan people as well. Added to this, when there are issues between Taliban and its people in Afghanistan, this can also have refugee crisis to Pakistan as well. People in that particular region disturbed by the infighting will obviously start entering Pakistan, which can lead to refugee crisis, and possibly there can also be terrorist attacks in Pakistan, and as a result these are the major challenges for Pakistan. Now let's look into what could be the impact on China. When you look into China, China was initially happy and it also asked United States of America to pull back as soon as possible. But it is not going to be that easy for China as well. Until now, United States of America was providing security in Afghanistan, which is why there was not much issues when it comes to the Xinjiang province. Xinjiang province happens to be a volatile region when it comes to China. There are the Uyghur separatists, and when you look into the East Turkestan movement, it is one which is going to haunt China, says this article. Why is that it is going to haunt? When you go back and read the history books, there have been regions like the Xinjiang province which has always been volatile to China. And when you go back and read, there has been Taliban, there has been Al Qaeda in the year 1996, where Taliban and Al Qaeda have provided material resources to the East Turkestan movement as well. They have trained their fighters, they have provided the military supplies and equipment, and they have also provided the fundraising and refugee status to those people who were part of the East Turkestan movement. So, what it will have is a spillover effect in the Xinjiang province for China as well. Added to this, China also wanted to come up with the Belt and the Road Initiative. They wanted to boost the infrastructure as well. They've also provided material support under the BRI initiative, where the Wakhan corridor, the Badakhshan province, and the linkage of the southern Afghanistan, which is currently being linked to the China-Pakistan economic corridor as well. All the money has been provided by China. If Taliban takes over the power, if they are not satisfied with China, again what they will face is issues. Afghanistan currently has tremendous untapped natural reserves. What are these? These are cobalt, gold, iron and lithium. In fact, the Chinese companies have also invested heavy in Afghanistan regions, mining areas and energy sectors as well. And if Taliban is not happy with China, this can also result in instability in the region of Afghanistan, which ultimately will harm China, is another aspect. And when it comes to India, we know for the fact that India does not have good relationship with Taliban. India has always believed that Afghanistan should be Afghan led, Afghan owned and Afghan controlled peace process, and when it is Taliban which is at the helm of the affairs, it will be indirectly controlled by Pakistan, which could be leading to whims and fancies of Pakistan, and ultimately there could be instability along the Indian western frontier as well. So as a result, what this article also discusses is two important perspectives. Since Afghan government will be having consensus with the Taliban might be part of the government as well. India will have to shed away its historical facts and ultimately start speaking to Taliban is one point of view. Added to this, we also know for the fact that Taliban can also perpetuate violence in Pakistan. So we have to establish peace between India and Pakistan, so that if there is stabilizing relationship between India and Pakistan, indirectly it will also bring peace with Taliban as well. So going forward, this particular issue has lot of ambiguities. United States of America's withdrawal will be for sure a security issue and will have negative implications in Afghanistan. So how is that we are going to bridge all these gaps in the Afghanistan, bring all these regional powers in this particular region, and ensure that there is peace in Afghanistan has to be waited and watched, is what is this article all about. This article here is important from the preliminary examination point of view, and we are speaking about Chandrabhaga beach. From the preliminary examination point of view, do remember the Chandrabhaga beach in Puri district in Odisha has become the first in Asia to get the blue flag certification. This can be very important from your preliminary examination point of view. So what is this blue flag certification? This is a tag that is given to those beaches which are environmentally friendly. They are equipped with amenities of international standards to the tourists who visit to this particular place. So this blue flag certification means that it meets the environmental standards as prescribed by the international bodies. Also remember, UPSC in the past has asked questions like this. At one of the places in India, if you stand on the seashore and watch the sea, you will find that the seawater recedes from the shoreline a few kilometers and comes back to the shore twice a day, and you can actually walk on the seafloor when the water recedes. The unique phenomenon is seen at Chandipur. So do remember, such questions can also be asked with respect to the beaches in India. So one of the important beaches that we have is the Chandrabhaga beach. What are the other important facts that we should remember in reference to Chandrabhaga beach is a small assignment that you have to read and put it on the comment section. One of the important factual data has been given, but is there any other important facts? You have to just find it out and put it on the comment section. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. The Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act has to be suitably expanded to account for the reporting of historical child sexual abuse. Analyze. The unconditional withdrawal of all US troops from Afghanistan could push China to the center stage and negatively impact the future of Afghanistan. Discuss. So please write all your answers on the comment section. Peer review. Do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.